Yeah, this is a difficult one because those who find it intimidating, overwhelming, and it's quite a common attitude, especially in social sciences and psychology in particular. It's a very female-dominated subject in terms of students. You know, the student population is very female-dominated. And I don't know where it comes from, honestly, because of, my own educational background, the schooling background was not in this country, as I said, it was in Soviet Union. I find it quite surprising that in the UK, and I know that that is the case, and probably in the US and in many countries in Europe as well, girls for some reason shy away from maths, and they just for some reason think that they're not as good as boys, but that's just simply not true. There is no evidence to suggest that that is the case. So that's a kind of a connection, between intimidating, finding it intimidating, and gender. But of course, boys can find it intimidating too. That's quite understandable. So if it is so, the best thing I think as educators at university or even at school is to give them real world problems, to really make it practical, make it hands-on. So I might be controversial here, but I always disliked, these jokey examples when it comes to statistics. For instance, in some textbooks, or you hear it from some lecturers, they would give some kind of a jokey example of, I don't know, how we measure, how we do the t-test, for example, or something like that. And they would say, oh, let's just, measure whether chips which were fried in so and so oil are different from, those kind of things. And I always disliked that because I would argue that it kind of makes students feel that our subject is not particularly serious or important. If we're just doing silly things like that, it's kind of all looks like mathematical circus. So I never use examples like that. I always use examples either from my own practice in the past, so straight from organizational assessments, or I used to work with large databases of from child and adolescent mental health services in the UK to look at, for instance, at the prevalence of various psychiatric disorders and mental health disorders, and for instance, how parents report about them and how clinicians report about them, and all those kind of things. So I always use those examples because I find that they convey the importance of what we do. Why is it important to analyze this? Well, because it actually leads to really important results and really important substantive conclusions, and perhaps will influence policy or, our understanding of certain conditions. So I think that's really important, especially for people who kind of shy away and feel overwhelmed by methodology, is to give them those real world examples and break it all down, and to show how we can interpret and analyze and make decisions based on that. That the way I teach, I don't know if that's the best way or not, but that's kind of what I intuitively have done over the years. Is every time I explain the topic, I would give an empirical example. And in giving that example, I would walk students step by step to what I do, how I approach that data as a researcher, what I would look at, and being quite honest, not kind of a textbook about it, but saying, well, this is a borderline, and as a researcher, I could go this way or that way, and I could make that decision or that one. So let's just adopt this one for now and see where it takes us, whether it aids interpretation and so forth. So in that kind of very relaxed approach, and I feel that helps people in terms of just feeling that it's not all so clear cut, and they don't need to be afraid of when they don't find it very clear cut, because we don't find it clear cut either. I'm just trying to, at the moment, get launched my book, I've written it. I just now I'm going through options of how to get it out there. It's called Psychometrics and Exercises Using R. So it's kind of a very practical book. Again, taking a data set, demolishing the data set and looking, examining it, and showcasing particular techniques on different data sets using R. And again, showing, okay, first I would look at descriptives and, so just explaining how I do it step by step. So exactly the same approach.